Welcome back to Learn Software Architecture channel. Today we have a special guest. The special guest is Urs Enzler. He comes from Switzerland. He's the co-organizer of .NET Lucerne Group here in Switzerland, software architect, and mainly F# programmer. It's nice to have you here today, Urs.
Thanks, MJ. Nice to be here.
Today, we will discuss functional programming in context of F#. We will talk about how it differs from object-oriented programming, what makes it unique, and how it can help us daily. But before we start, I would like to ask the same question as I asked in the past for our other guests. So, how did you start your programming journey, Urs?
Oh, that was a long time ago. I think I started by reverse engineering the programs my brother wrote because I have a 5-year older brother. And I think it then was something like the turtle graphics thing. So where you can draw images by saying walk 10 whatever, turn 90 degrees. So that was my start. And then I quickly switched to Turbo Pascal. So I did a lot of programming in my teens in Turbo Pascal. So I even wrote the game. It was a 2-person Pac-Man game.
Okay.
Competitive. So we played against each other. So with DirectX, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. So finally, when I started my studies in computer science, so programming wasn't a problem.
And were there any IT magazines by this time where you started writing things in Turbo Pascal?
I had the Turbo Pascal, I don't know what it's called, the user manual. So 6 or 7 books, very thick. So I learned it from the books because there was no internet back then.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't any magazines, no, because I couldn't speak English then. So yeah, I had to learn it by trying.
Okay.
And yeah, if I couldn't get further, I asked my older brother, and yeah, he could help me with the basics.
So that was more like try and error approach.
Yeah.
No Stack Overflow.
Yeah. So what is this fancy thing called for? What can I do with a for? Okay. It's really basic, but I learned it like with this small bricks, and I added stuff and added stuff. But back then, programming languages were rather easy. So Turbo Pascal is a rather easy programming language, I guess. At least that's how I remember it. But yeah.
I can't answer. Unfortunately, I started my programming career with C++. I'm a bit younger.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's hard. But by the time when I used it, at least there were just like single ways of doing something. So you haven't had like multiple ways of doing the same thing like we have today, for example, in C#. But this time it was all easy.
Yeah, I've always struggled with C++, where to put the const keyword, because there are 6 places where you can put it in a method declaration or something.
Yeah.
I did my fair share of C++, but I never liked it. It's too difficult for easy stuff. It's great for very difficult stuff. You can do everything in C++, but for normal day business applications, for me, it was just too inefficient.
Yeah, exactly. But this flexibility, yes, which you just talked about, that C++ gives you a lot of flexibility because you can do everything.
Of course, it was an old C++. Nowadays, C++ came a long way, as far as I know it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done things professionally for many years in C++, but it changed a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin wrote, too difficult for easy stuff. I am stealing that. And yeah, that's true. That's true. You can optimize it as you want. You can make it performant and so on. That we can dream of such performance in other languages, but still, it's too difficult for easy stuff. I can agree here. Well, then I think we can switch to our F# world. And just as for your background, Urs used to be a C# developer, and at some point he decided to switch to F#. And my question is, what factors influenced your decision to transition to F#? Was it driven by curiosity or a specific problem you were trying to solve?
It's a mixture of things. So in my studies, we of course learned some functional programming language, ML, meta language. And so I knew the basic concepts. So that F# is syntax-wise really close to ML. So I knew the basics, and I attended a couple of talks and workshops about F# out of curiosity, and I liked the syntax. It's a really lightweight syntax, and yeah, it took a couple of attempts and a couple of years until I finally had the opportunity to really give F# a try. So I was working in a team, and I said, yeah, we do quite a functional style of C# because we like LINQ for transformation of data. We even introduced, we called it a maybe. So a type, you have a value or you don't have a value, because we really don't like nulls. And when we started with this team, there was no nullability in C# like it's there today. So we borrowed a couple of these functional patterns or concepts, and we really liked that. And yeah, then maybe we should give a more functional language a try. And then I just asked the team, hey, can I have a month and rewrite a slice of our application? It was the calendar module, the calendar subsystem. Can I give it a try and redo it in F#? And we already knew that interop is quite good, so we can interop with the existing code, we can call C# from F# and the other way around. So yeah, the team said, yeah, that's an interesting experiment. Let's give that a try. And yeah, it took me more or less a month, and I rewrote most of the subsystem. And then I showed maybe 50 lines of code. I compared the C# code to the F# code. I presented on the left side C#, right side F#, and said, I think this is the best code to show you the difference. And the team looked at both examples. So C# code looked like they knew it. This very, they are used to this style. And they looked at the F# code and they said, yeah, we want to go with that from now on. There was no discussion. It was just really obvious in our context for what we typically do in our software, that F# has some tools that just fit very well.
Question, was it way less code in F# than C#?
Can you ask again, please?
Was it way less code in F# than C#?
It was a bit less code, yes, but it's just dealing with error cases is much easier. So not exceptions like the database isn't there, but things like the data you want doesn't exist, or you want to do something that isn't allowed. So working with results. And you have this concept of computation expressions that make it really easy to deal with these things. In C# you always have ifs and early returns, and in F# it feels like I'm programming the happy path, and all the not happy paths just get hidden away with these computation expressions. And we have a lot of this code. So our application is more or less the same concept, how we do things 1,000, 2,000 times. And this thing just matches the way we think, the way we want to build our software. So very stable. We want our code to express what's really happening in the domain. And all the things like, we have to handle if the data isn't there, or special cases, you can hide it a little bit. So in our C# code, this exception handling and ifs, they are very prominent. And in F# they just go away a little bit. So, and that was the main thing that my team liked, and also I liked, obviously. And that was the start. It was 4 years ago. We said, okay, that feels way better. We should build new stuff now with F#. And nowadays we have all the new subsystems are built in F#, but we still have a little bit more C# code than F# code. And yes, F# is typically a little bit shorter, but that's not the main reason. I would more say it's a little bit less lines, but it's also a lot less noise. So there is simply less syntax there, F# compared to C#. So because we spoke about C++ earlier, when I switched from C++ to C#, this was over 20 years ago, so it was C# 1.0. The feeling was, wow, this language is so easy.
Welcome in the club. Welcome in the club.
You just can't write C# really efficiently because it's so simple. Yeah, it was also very limited 1.0. You can't compare it to C# nowadays. It was really simple, and you just could write it really quickly. And you could write it or you couldn't write it, but if you could write it, it was easy to write. And I had the same feeling when I switched from C# to F#. So the syntax is quite different when you start, but again, it was the feeling like things we typically do are really easy to do. And I'm wondering what the next language will be where I have this feeling. Maybe in 10 years. Let's see.
Maybe a natural one.
Don't know.
Maybe. You mentioned that you built this calendar module, and when you told that, I just thought, oh no, one of the worst things you can imagine implementing as a developer, calendar module with all these dates and all the stuff that you need to remember. So I think F# was a perfect fit, that it was simplifying the process of implementation besides all these rules that are around the calendar.
So we build an attendance time system, so time is all around in our domain. So it's one of our core modules. The funny thing, nowadays it's still C# because I built the prototype and said, yes, we go that way, but we decided a little bit, unfortunately. We learned a lot. We now know how to build stuff in F#, but we leave that one still in C# because it's really important, it's really core. In hindsight, it was a bad decision. We should have gone with the migrated code. It would have been perfectly okay. But it's just the way it is. We didn't want to go that risk because we didn't know how long does it take for the other developers to switch from C# to F#, which is surprisingly easy. Every developer learned it in 2 to 3 weeks to write really good F# code. Of course, you don't know all the details, but for the things we do on a day-to-day basis, learning 2 weeks F# gets you a long way.
Yeah, I remember that I told you that once or twice that I did some F# during my university, and it was in 2012. I think it was version 3, if I remember correctly. Nowadays, probably there is version 8, 9, or whatever. I don't know because I am not following F#. What is the version at the moment? Do you know?
I can't tell you because Microsoft versioning is a really complex topic. So
Mhm.
I'd rather say nothing than the wrong number. But I think it's F#8.
Okay, yeah, so a lot has changed since I saw it for the last time.
Yes, a lot of things have changed, but the language stayed more or less the same. And that's something I really like about F#. There are some additions to make things easier, but there are, compared to C#, where there are, with every version, there are really new concepts and new keywords. F# is a rather stable language. So you don't have to relearn it every year. And I would say for me, C# was really easy because it started 20 years ago. So every year a little bit was added. But if you want to learn C# nowadays, there's a lot to learn, a lot of syntax, multiple ways of doing more or less the same thing. Yeah, it adds to the cognitive load, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And question if we are at this topic, because as you mentioned, a lot is happening in C#. There are new versions of this language. It's like in the past with JavaScript and frameworks, libraries around JavaScript. I am feeling like that in .NET world at the moment. But one cannot hear too much about F#. Do you have an idea why this happens? Is it like the second child? Yeah, it's there, but it's not this first one. That's why we are not investing too much.
I don't really know, but I think there are a couple of things to it. One is that the typical C# developer is really happy with C# because C# is a great language, can build everything you want. .NET is a great landscape, a great framework to building anything you want, more or less anything you want. So yeah, I think C# is in a good place. So a lot of people are just happy with C#. They don't look around for anything else. And another thing is that, in my opinion, Microsoft doesn't push F# very much. It pushes .NET and C#. So it's sometimes hard to distinguish what is C#, what is .NET, if you not really know the details about all this stuff. And in the later versions, they built things into .NET or into C# that are really C# focused. So where F# didn't profit, like source generators, and now AOT is a big topic where F# is not on par with C# yet, hopefully. So Microsoft is pushing C# .NET very hard, and F#. They have a team that improves F#. There's a lot going on in F#, a lot of detail work, and so it's improving. And I think it doesn't need that much improving as C# does. But yeah, most things you can read or hear on social media or on the blogs are focused around .NET in general. We can use in C# or F#. But then typically the examples are, of course, in C# because the C# community is much bigger. So yeah, you just read a lot about C# and only a little about F#. Unless you find the F# bubble, and then you see there's quite a lot going on in there, but you have to enter the bubble. Otherwise, you won't get these posts and these articles.
Okay. Yeah, why I'm asking is because I remember that when I started switching to another language than C++, I looked at job boards. I don't know if I could have named it job board in the past, but let's say it was some kind of a job board. And there was almost nothing for F# and a lot for C# or Java and so on. So I started to learn C#. And nowadays, before this interview, I just looked again at the job boards and I see the same situation, the same story as it used to be in 2012. No F# jobs, a lot of C# jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem here is that most, I would say .NET is mostly used in enterprises. I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, enterprises, and if they are happy with the technology, then they don't change it. So if they are happy with C#, then they will look for C# developers. They won't go and say, yeah, let's do something new, and now let's start with F#.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that will change much unless people interested in F# understand they just have to turn their C# team into an also doing F# team,
Mm-hmm.
like we did. So we are a C# and F# team. I still program C# multiple times a week, depends on which subsystem I work in. But the trick is to, use both. Look where maybe you have existing code in C#, so you just add new features in C# there. But maybe you can split something out and you can build that one in F#. And so I think that should be the way to switch teams from C# to C# and F# teams. But what I see is I did quite a few talks about F#, and it's really hard to sell the advantages of F# to the let's say the average C# developer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because C# developers are dumb or don't know anything, absolutely not, but it's the whole industry. We have an extreme pyramid of knowledge in our industry. So we have really, really a lot of people just came in our industry, and they know how to program in one or two languages, but yeah, the conceptual knowledge isn't really there. And there are only a few people who have really 20, 30 years of experience. And I mean that by learning new stuff every year, not 20 years on the same old COBOL technology.
Yeah, of course.
So there are only a few people in our industry that are really, really knowledgeable. And in this environment, it's hard to get people to adapt to new, better things when they are more or less happy with what they have. So a C# developer gets things done. They get the problem, they solve it with C#. And it's hard to say, yeah, I guess you could do that 10% faster and better in F#.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you some samples where it worked for us, but it's really hard that people think, yes, that sounds great. I take the risk and switch to F#.
Yeah, I think it might be as well because, nowadays, in the past, there were no people like that. Or maybe I remember Scott Hanselman and David Fowler, that they were really putting some YouTube videos about C# and so on. Nowadays, we have a lot of YouTubers who are talking about C#, and they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. And we have no one from the F# world. I think maybe, or I don't know, I haven't heard about it. Maybe
I know a couple, but typically they stop after 1 or 2 years because their viewer base doesn't grow. So they get the viewers from the people that already use F#. And but you can't target people already knowing F# because you run out of content really quickly. So, but again, the C#, there are a lot of C# streamers or content creators out there, and they produce good content, but it's really most of the time really basics, and that's okay. But that works because there are so many C# developers that need these basics. And I would say at the moment, if someone can program in F#, he or she probably isn't in the basics area anymore, because most F# developers are probably either C# developers earlier, or maybe they came from Python and were looking for some types. So they already know how to program, or they're above this basics level. And I don't know many streamers in C# that target a more experienced audience. So it's, at least in what I see in my bubble, is around new language features, basics like how to use regular expressions in C#, or that's all great. Nothing against that, but I think you can't do that in F#, because all these things haven't changed in the last 15 years. And of course, sorry, content creators target for bigger audiences. That's clear.
Yeah, we had a YouTuber who is doing F# in a call. I don't know if he's still there, but Martin, who pointed out this comment about too difficult for easy stuff. He does some F# content. At least he used to do that for last year.
Yeah,
So
I know a couple of them. They do great work, but yeah, I think lately it's declined a little again. But yeah.
Okay.
But if you want to learn F#, there's a lot of good content out there. So that's really not the problem. I would say it's more than enough content to learn F#. And the good thing is most of the content is really good. In the C# land, it's, you have to look for the good ones, because there are also a lot of not so good ones around.
We can put in the description, after we are done with today's interview, we can put in description some materials, like if you have some YouTube channels that you can recommend, or a book, or maybe some articles, we can link all of this stuff into the description. I think it would be helpful for the people. And coming back to the F# topic, if you would have to select one particular unique thing about F#, like the best thing that you like with F#, what would it be?
Probably computation expressions.
Okay,
it's the only language that has them. At least the only language I know that has computation expressions. There is something similar in Haskell, but I'm really no Haskell developer. And but now you want me to explain what computation expressions are, I guess.
Would be great. But just really, I will say now in simple words. I know it won't be possible probably to explain in simple words, but just for a newbie, for a freshman, if you have to explain this.
I think I have to show a small sample.
Okay.
This makes it much easier. Just thinking where I get one, but I look for an I know if you have 30 seconds, I can grab a slide from a presentation.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just easier to show some code than just talking about it.
Let me know when you are ready. I will add it to the screen. Finally, we have some meat.
Too many versions of this talk lying around. So I know I have it somewhere here. Okay, the layout is
okay. Should I share it?
Yeah, you can share it, but I have to make it a little bit smaller. Somehow the layout didn't survive.
Okay, so, I think now it's readable. Yeah.
Let's make it a little bit, okay. Probably the most well-known computation expression is the async one. It's something similar like doing async await in C#. But instead of writing the async in the method declaration, you can define an async block. So this async and this curly braces, this is the computation expression. So computation always has
Ich finde diesen Titel nicht in deiner Apple Music Mediathek.
Yeah. Thank you, Siri. Really nice.
It happens always to me.
I don't know why he reacted, because I have a male Siri. So you have the async block here. So it also has a builder, it's called. So this is the async computation expression. And let's say this download data is an async function. So it will be executed asynchronously. So if I want to get the data in C#, I would write await.
Await, yeah.
And await is this bang here. Let bang. So typically in F#, you name a value with let data equals something. And let bang means await this call and assign the result to data. So it's async, await. It's not really the same concept, but you can think of it like that. And then I have the data, and I can do some calculations with data and return the data I have. And then I get, again, this async result that some other function, again, can await with a let bang inside of an async computation expression. So what the computation expression does, it's more or less syntactic sugar to define what should happen if I write the bang. The bang means await the function call. Another example could be, the layout is a little bit off, is a query computation expression. That means inside of this computation expression, I can use special keywords for group by where select. That
similar to LINQ.
Similar to LINQ, yeah. And the query builder defines what these keywords mean. So yeah, it's just LINQ here, group it, select it, return it. Or another one is the option computation expression. And now this says the bang means try to get that value. If there is a value. Option means it either has a value or it does not have a value. So this optional int here is either an int or it's none, as it is called in F#. And I try to get the value, and if I can get it, I can add 17 and return I have some value, the original one plus 17. And if optional doesn't have a value, then the builder says, okay, I can't continue. I just return none as my overall result. So it feels like an early return. And now comes in the great thing with errors. There also a computation expression is called result. That means either I can give you a result, an okay result, or I fail with an error. So I can, if this would be a result, I could say, yeah, try to do something. And if it fails, just end now with an error. Otherwise, continue. So that's this happy path programming. Just do this, try this, try this, try this, try this. As long as you can continue, do so. And if one step fails, drop out. I don't have to write an if, I just have to write the bang. So that makes our business code really easy to read. Because it's the main intent that we write, and we deal with all errors just writing a bang. So
especially when you already know all this stuff, then it will be easier, to read it.
Yeah, and what's great about computation expression is this is all the same concept. So we could write our own computation expression. You have to get into it, but it really isn't that hard. There are some conventions you have to follow, but we could add new computation expressions. And there's one concept for all these things. Where in C# you have one concept for async await, you have one concept called LINQ for querying. There are no options in C#, but if they get it, they probably have their own concept. So you have to learn a lot of different concepts. And in F#, you have to learn one. It's a little bit more difficult than a simple async await. But if you know the concept, you understand all these things rather easy.
Good. Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks really cool, especially as you don't need to handle all these if statements and all the stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and
that's really cool.
The example I showed my team used a result computation expression, and in our applications, the client sends some data. Hey, backend, give me data about this and that, and we always have things like, yeah, maybe the data is already deleted, so we don't know if it's still there. So all these things could fail. So in a way that we would say the data you want isn't there anymore. So we write a result, try to get it, and drop out if the data isn't there anymore. So that's really easy to write.
Yeah.
So I would say that's my number one feature of F#.
Okay. And do you have another one that you would like to mention? Or this computation expressions is the king?
I go a completely different route. I'm prepared.
Good.
A little bit.
I like it.
So this one. I once did an overview of what are language features, and I stole some from Don Syme, that's the inventor of F#, and I tried to put all the language features onto an axis. On the left are the more object-oriented ones, and on the right are the more functional ones. So you have things like you can write x.length, that's somewhere in the middle. It's a little bit more object-oriented than functional. So the middle would be here. And on the hardcore object-oriented side, you have things like self-types or aspect-oriented programming. And on the hardcore functional side, you have things like pure functions type classes, things that Haskell provides, for example. And in the middle, you have a lot of features. So like you can have static members, basic stuff like that. You have events. You can have nulls. You have method overloading and so on. And here are the more functional ones, like the computation expressions I just mentioned. And I draw a box around the things that C# and F# support. And that's one of the really great features for F# for me, that if you look at it, F# can do almost anything that C# can do.
Yeah.
So all the object stuff here, most of it, you can do it as well in F#. The reason for that is interop, because you can call C# code from F#, so F# has to know about classes, interfaces, method overloading, and so on. So you can use the C# code. And you can't define everything in F#. For example, you can't define protected members in F#. That's just because Don Syme doesn't like it. And you can't do all method overloading stuff you can do in C#. But otherwise, yeah, you can use classes, interfaces, objects, most things you can do in C#. And when I look at our code, is our main business logic is really, really functional. So we use a lot of functions that are pure because we designed it like that, not like this pure where it's guaranteed by the compiler, but you have pure functions. So as long as we pass the same arguments, we get back the same result. So our core domain logic uses these features, the functional features. But on the composition side, where we build our application, so we have more or less a monolith. So when a call comes in to our web backend, we build up the subsystem that is used to compute the result. In the composition, we use classes and interfaces. We use interfaces for dependency injection of things like access to the database, access to other services. Maybe it's just because we are so used to it coming from C#, but actually it feels just great using object-oriented stuff for the composition, because there we really have state like caches holding connections to databases. That's really state. And if I have state, I like the object-oriented paradigm for that. I don't like the object-oriented paradigm for crunching data, for executing business rules and business workflows. There, the functional way matches much better for us. So F# is great because you can mix the paradigms.
Yeah, and still you can use for part of your application, you can still use C# because it's the same runtime, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can simply call a C# method from an F# function and the other way around. The interop is really great.
Yeah, it gives a lot of flexibility. Absolutely, I can agree here with you. Okay, yeah. Well, this is a great explanation. I really like this chart. Probably I will steal it at some point.
Yeah, from year to year, I have to move this violet box a little bit to the right. Because with records, you have some immutability by default. Maybe there will be some discriminated units in C#, so you have to move the line here a bit, but let's see what happens in C#.
Yep. And if I have to ask you about the biggest challenge that you had while doing F#, do you have something in mind? Because usually someone has such challenges. Like I remember C++ time when I had a lot of challenges related to garbage collection, yes, pointers and so on. Do you have something like that or did you have something like that in F#?
It was a rather smooth ride up to now. Probably because, we were used to the basic functional concepts in C# already with usage of LINQ. And I can say one thing that we have some parts of our application have to be really fast. And if you just do simple by the example F# and have, I have a list and then I want to transform the values in the list, so you use a list map. It's like a select in C# LINQ. And you do that over and over and over and over again, you generate a lot of memory allocations. And for these high performance parts, we had to, sorry. My cold is still there.
No worries.
Sometimes you have to leave locally the functional part and implement it in a more imperative style. So with a loop or something to reduce the allocations. Because if we have a lot of requests in our systems and we just keep the garbage collector busy, we had some performance problems in our backend. But that's probably overall 300 lines of code that were really that problematic. Everything else is just fast enough with mapping lists over lists over lists.
That's interesting, because what I wanted to ask you next was about the performance problems and differences in comparison to C#. Nowadays you can see that .NET 7, .NET 8, .NET 9 improved something, yes, and these times are improved a lot. And do you see any difference from F# side?
So F# profits from the .NET changes as well, like C# does. So you get free performance with every .NET version. It's really nice. And I would say, in general, if you solve a problem with C# and with F#, it's probably equally fast. Of course, you can do stuff wrong in F# and you can stupid stuff in C# so that it gets slow. But for normal code, it's equally fast. And my experience is, if you have to optimize it a bit, so make it a little bit faster, that's easier in F#, or at least for us in our code, it's easier in F# than in C#, because everything is immutable. There is no shared state. It's much easier to think about these things and thinking about, how could I write a different algorithm that runs faster? But if you have to go really, really, really fast, you can do that in F#, but then it's probably more an imperative style of programming, not a functional one. So there is a great content creator, Fast F#, that did a lot of videos about performance optimizing of F# code.
We will put it in the description as well.
And there you see you can write really, really fast code in F#. He also he writes some simulation engine or something. For some parts, they switch to another language out of the .NET system. So I think it's Odin. So because the runtime is just much faster than the .NET runtime, but I don't know that one for the really, 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 really high performance part. But I would say, regarding performance, it doesn't matter whether you go with F# or C#.
Okay. Yeah.
You can all these span things and all these optimizations. You can use them in F# because they are all .NET. And I would say for a business application, you just write normal code in C# and in F#. And when you have a performance bottleneck, then you have to optimize your code, whether it's C# or F#. Because both is .NET, the optimizations look typically quite the same. So minimize allocations, try not to loop too many times over whether it's a C# list or an F# list. Some funny things are, if you have to build up a list, that's faster in F# because it's heading at the head. It's really, really fast. If you have to append it, then the C# list is better than the F# list. So performance, it really, really matters what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you want to achieve. So, but I would say that we have some code that is optimized, but for the normal code in a business application, both are really fast.
Yeah. You mentioned as well, while talking about performance, you mentioned about immutability. Yeah? I think this is one of these characteristics that is very important in context of F# when we are comparing it, for example, to C#. And I think I saw last week one of your LinkedIn posts where you were talking about immutability in F# and C#. You were comparing both.
I can't remember what post you mean, but
I
in
think
F#,
maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it wasn't you.
I wrote something, but I think it was about immutability and read-only.
Yeah.
They're not that's not the same. Because immutable means it's really immutable. Nobody can change it. Read-only means when you have the read-only interface, you can only read, but I can change. That can have really nasty side effects. But immutability is the default in F#. So if you define a value, I don't say variable because you have a value in F#, so it's immutable. If you want a mutable variable in F#, you have to put the mutable keyword explicitly there. And in C#, it's the other way around. If you use var or just int e, then it's mutable. And if you want it immutable, you have to add something around it. Either use a record or a constructor and just read only fields. So you can do it both ways in both languages, but F# is just the default is immutable, and it's easy to switch to mutability. Whereas in C# it's sometimes a little bit tedious to switch to immutability.
Yeah. However, with records, it became a bit more accessible. Yeah, maybe not accessible, but easier.
Yeah,
simpler.
Simpler, but also very dangerous.
Yes,
As
absolutely.
soon as you put the reference type in the record,
yeah,
then it's not immutable anymore.
yes.
So that's a trap. I don't like traps in a programming language.
I think that's one of the main characteristics of C#. There are a lot of different traps, and that's why maybe you prefer nowadays F#. But do you think about just leaving F# at some point and returning fully to C# or moving somewhere else, or at the moment you are happy to use F#?
At the moment, we are really happy with F# because it solves the problems we have, or we can more easily solve our problems with F# than C#. And I don't think I would like to go back to C#. They add a lot of functional features to C#, but they should remove stuff to make it a simple language again. But that won't happen because it's simply impossible to remove stuff, because it would break existing code, and that will never happen. So they would have to implement or invent a new language, and that won't happen. That probably won't happen as well. So that's a problem with most programming language. When they get old and they just get new features, and never get rid of old ones. That's it makes the programming languages more and more complex. And it's just harder to write good code in a complex language than in a simple one.
On the other hand, in a simple one, you might be missing some things which are already in the languages that are quite old.
Not necessarily. Simple doesn't mean there are missing features. It's just so I had the honor to have Niklaus Wirth as a lecturer at my studies. It was tough, but he was a legend. And he had a famous quote that a good programming language allows you to solve a problem exactly in one way. So you always have to solve it in the same way. That makes a language easy. And I don't fully agree with that, because his languages weren't that easy. But I agree so far that when you have 7 methods to do the same, you can't read code anymore, because you find all the 7 methods, and it's like 2 ways to define a record in C#. It's just so unnecessary. So I have to know 2 syntaxes for more or less the same, but I can't use it in the same way. It just makes it difficult. And so I prefer a language where there are fewer options, but you can still solve all the same problems. But you tend to have, if 2 programmers have a similar problem, they end up with a similar solution. I prefer that.
Yeah, absolutely. But also when talking about that stuff and let's say maturity of the language, because when we are talking about C#, it has at the moment 21 years, I think, 22, maybe 23 even, 2001, I think.
2002, I think.
2002. Okay, so 22 years, yes. So we can talk about something major. And when we have new things like Go, for example, then you are lacking all these community support to these languages, all these libraries that are around that you can just use. You have to write it on your own. Yeah, I think this is the power, I think, of F#, that you can use whatever you want. You can use the libraries that are there for .NET, and you can use it. You can leverage the power of it.
You could even use Python libraries because you can compile F# to Python, I guess. Or you can compile it to JavaScript with Fable. There are some experimentations with Fable to cross-compile F# to other languages. I can't remember which languages these are at the moment, but for sure it's JavaScript. So you can write web apps almost fully in F#. And there is also a Python one, but I don't know how well it's also if it's really done for production or not. I simply don't know.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, to be honest. I was aware of that you can write in F# web applications because I saw it at our .NET group, so it was cool. And I think that's something really cool, that you just need F#. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can build entire web app.
Yeah, we don't use that because we started with C# and Angular, so we still have an Angular client around. But yeah, maybe sometime. I don't know. Yeah, but if you mentioned that C# is from 2002, F# is from 2005, so it's not that much younger.
Yes, but the entire community around the F# was and is still way smaller. I think it is even way smaller than it used to be in the past in comparison to C#. You know, if you look at the percentage of the developers who are involved in C# in comparison to F#, I would say it's even more nowadays.
Yes, that's for sure true. Yeah, and it's a sad thing because Microsoft started .NET with have one platform for multiple languages like VB.NET, which is still around, but nothing happens there anymore. Or some strange languages like J# or IronPython, but I don't know if they still exist. Probably not. So it's a little bit sad that they optimized .NET more and more for C#. But yeah, let's see what will happen there.
And the last question today, I don't want to keep you too long on the line because I know you are sick. Imagine that you are talking to a newbie. So you have a freshman in the F# world. What would be your recommendations for such a guy?
You mean for learning F#? Or?
Yes, for learning F# and not leaving this world after several months.
I would say take 2 weeks to learn F#, do nothing else but learn F# and start by reading the book. So I can't remember the book by Isaac Abrahams. Is it? I have to look it up because
I can look it up.
What's the old one? The new one?
F# in action?
F# in action, probably, yeah.
Okay.
The new should be the new one because I always confused the new and the old one. The other one was Get Programming with F#, I think. But it should be the Manning book.
Yes, Get Programming with F# is from 2018.
Yeah, then that is the old one. Then it's F# in action.
Yes, 2024, April.
Yeah, it's a really good read, especially if you come from C#, then you can read it really quickly because F#, thank you. Really great introduction into the language. Also shows things like a bit of the web programming part, so you know all the things you can build with F#. And then I would hop over to Exercism, because Exercism has a great F# track to learn the language through exercises. So you get an exercise, you can try to program it, and there are tests there. And if they are green, you succeeded with the exercise. And if you can't find a solution, you can look at solutions from other people. And it's always great to look at solutions from, yes, exactly, from other people, because you see, oh, what is this feature? Wow, what is a fold? Okay, there's a solution with fold. What is that? So you can learn really quickly through exercises, through, you know, the problem, you see a different solution. And that's how we introduce our developers, our small group of developers in my company, to F#. And it took them 2 to 3 weeks. And we say, yeah, just learn F#, do nothing else. Don't work on the production code. Your only job for 2 weeks is to really learn F#. Because if you always switch on it, every day you switch between F# and C#, it's hard to get into the F# syntax. You always drop back to C#. But if you have a week or two just writing F#, it should click, and you see, yeah, that's the thing about F#. Yes, there are a lot of pipes, and yes, because sometimes you have to think the other way around. So in C# you have always to put the thing as the argument, and then you write the method in front of it. And if you nest that again, you have to write the method again in front of it. And in F#, you just have the value, pipe it to the function, pipe it to the function. Really a simple thing. Once you get it in the beginning, it's the wrong way around. But
yeah. Good.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Urs, for today's participation. Thank you for saying yes.
I'm surprised you didn't ask about functional architecture.
Yes, I market it as the functional paradigms and something for beginners, but we can make another call in next few months where we can talk about the architecture paradigms. So thanks a lot. Thanks for accepting the invitation. Guys, next month there is already confirmed guest. There will be something related, if I remember correctly, to static code analysis and all the things around it. So I think it will be in the 3rd week of June. I'm not sure yet, but I invite you to join it as well. Thanks again, Urs.
Thanks for having me.
And wish you all a great evening.
See you all.
Hey.